Hey, good afternoon, Crime Crunchies. Thank you so much for joining me here today. My name is Courtney C. I am your host and a 27-year veteran of the media, and I'm so happy to be able to bring you Crime Crunchies. So please remember to subscribe, like, share, comment, hit that bell for notifications, do a little booty dance, all those good things, and let's dive in. I'm going to share my screen. We are talking today about our favorite person in the whole wide world, the sheriff of Pima County in Tucson, Arizona. Brian Entin is back on location, and a lot of people have, and I'm not going to say started reaching out, they have been reaching out to Brian. People are coming out of the woodwork, and we have a whistleblower who currently works for the Pima County Sheriff Department, who is talking with Brian Entin about the good sheriff. And not surprising, the sheriff, his personality, and this is all speculation, but his personality matches that of a narcissist. And I truly believe that anybody that the sheriff has moved out of positions that were truly talented, or people that he retaliated against and took out of positions, I have no doubt that he rewarded and put people in positions who were loyal to him, who supported him, who gave him the ego boost that he needs. And that's exactly what sounds like has happened in the Nancy Guthrie Missing Case. And unfortunately, who loses? It's the Guthrie family and Nancy, who has been let down. And I had an entire episode the other day where I talked about Sheriff Nanos. And I really, at this point, I really have to say that he has aided the abductors, completely aided the abductors. He's not colluded, but he has aided and abetted through his negligence. And let's watch what Brian has to say with the whistleblower that is talking out. And they're obviously they're going to be hidden, and their voice is going to be changed because, oh boy, if Sheriff Nanos found out who this is spilling secrets, they're doomed. I'm telling you right now. So let's give a listen.
Case. And you guys know, I mean, I've spent so much time here. I've gotten to know a lot of people in the community. I've gotten to know a lot of people in law enforcement. I've made a lot of new friends. And there's a lot of people who want to speak out, who are frustrated with the investigation, including the person you are about to hear from. This is a source close to the investigation who wanted to speak, is frustrated with the sheriff, and frustrated with some things that happened early on in the investigation. Obviously, I have to conceal this person's identity because they would definitely get in trouble for speaking openly with me. Again, this is just a clip. I'm going to have the full interview, which is really eye-opening, coming up tonight. And whenever, depending on when you're watching this, it's Thursday night at 10 o'clock Eastern on News Nation. But I wanted to play you this part because this source explains what really was shocking about the early parts of this investigation when investigators first arrived at Nancy Guthrie's house that weekend. The first team that arrived, and how inexperienced this person says that they were. Listen to this. From what you know, were the initial people who responded inexperienced?
The people that were there on the scene were not 10-year homicide detectives. They didn't have a lot of experience in homicide at that point, to include the supervisor, who, from my understanding, never investigated homicide before being installed as the supervisor for the homicide unit.
So wait, so the supervisor who first responded to Nancy Guthrie's house had never investigated a homicide?
Correct.
How is that possible?
Well, so you have decisions made by people that will install friends and people that can do stuff for them, opposed to people that are there on their merit and can do the job correctly.
So obviously two interesting things that the person tells me there. First of all,
Wow.
that the supervisor had no homicide
Yikes.
experience, had never worked a homicide before, which could explain why the scene was cleared so quickly and other issues that happened early on. And then also the fact that this source says that the sheriff put people in leadership roles based more on loyalty and less on merit and less on
He
people
has
with
to have his ego
experience.
stroked.
I reached out to Sheriff Nanos to get a comment on all of this.
He's a pig.
As of the recording of this video, I haven't heard back as specifically about some of these things that were brought up. Again, I'm going to have the full interview coming up later on News Nation. But it's eye-opening.
I mean, he's turned into
as
the
you peel back
story.
the
I'm going to
layers
keep this
to
video going
what was
because
going on behind the scenes with the
Brian's
Nancy
going to
Guthrie
talk with somebody about
investigation.
this.
I want to talk
So
more
get
about all
comfy.
of this with my friend and our retired FBI agent, Steve Moore. Steve, thank you for joining me as always. I really appreciate it. I know you've been busy, so that's why you're in your car. So thanks for hopping on with me. I wanted to get your reaction to this interview that we did with this source that's very close to the Nancy Guthrie investigation. One thing the person told us is that the people who responded to Nancy's house initially were the detectives were inexperienced. Specifically, the homicide supervisor had never worked a homicide before. Does that surprise you?
I would wonder how that person was put in charge of homicide if they've never worked a homicide case. To me, that sounds like a political appointment. But I don't know the facts, but I never heard of something like that. You work your way up through, and the ones who rise to the top, whoever they may be, generally are the ones you want working homicide. And because the job of the homicide supervisor is not just to click stats and stuff like that. Their job is to monitor the cases of the investigators and make sure that they are following cogent leads, that they have a good strategy for the case, and that they're not going off the deep end on rabbit trails. And so how can you do that if you're the one who somebody else should be monitoring?
Yeah, I would think the supervisor, by definition, would be someone with a lot of experience.
Yeah, and it's funny in the FBI. There's a lot of consternation about sometimes agents just off probation putting in for supervisory positions when most agents on competitive squads. First of all, they don't want to be supervisors; they want to work the cases, and secondarily, it'll take you 10 years working your way up through the skills, through you have to make cases. Somebody who's never made a case on the homicide squad is not going to be considered for the supervisor. So then you have to wonder why somebody who's never even worked a case got made a supervisor.
One thing that this source said in the interview was that the sheriff, and this is basically a quote, put friends in positions of power versus people based on merit. So friends instead of people based on merit. And I know you were in the FBI, where I don't think it's as political because you don't have elected sheriffs and that kind of thing. But did that ever happen in the FBI? And when you would work with local municipalities on cases, did you see things like that happen where someone would get a job because they were friends with someone instead of, merit and how much experience they had?
I'm not going to say it never happened in the Bureau, but it was rare. And the reason is that there's a protocol. You can't just in the FBI say, oh, we need a supervisor here. I like him. He's going to do it. What you have to do is, because it has to be posted nationally to every single FBI agent who's eligible, so that they know that the job is up for posting. people can have a lot to say about whether this person is skilled enough to do this job or whether they have the experience. But one person generally cannot point and say that's the guy, unless they're very high up in the bureau. And I just didn't see that happen a lot. I've seen it more in local police agencies. But again, something like LAPD, they have protocols too. And while I'm sure it happens every once in a while, you really have to jump through a lot of hoops to fight the bureaucracy to get a friend in a position.
So that's pretty much the meat of this. So again, if you're just joining me, Brian Entin had a whistleblower that is a current employee of the Pima County Sheriff Department reach out to him, and in a disguise with his voice changed and his image, covered, he is sharing that the supervisor of the response of the homicide team that showed up day 1, 2, 3 of the Nancy Guthrie case, the supervisor of homicide is somebody who does not have homicide experience. He is probably a bro of the sheriff. He probably strokes the sheriff's ego or fits in with the sheriff somehow, and the sheriff rewarded this person, like nepotism, with a nice position, a nice role, probably a nice paycheck. And this is the biggest case this sheriff will ever see in his career, his lifetime. And this is, worldwide, people are watching this case. And it just has to make me think that they have fumbled this so badly. And I feel so bad because at that point, Nancy may have been alive those first few days. Okay. I mean, I might be naive and just grasping, but she may have been alive. And they screwed this up so bad. And this is how incompetent this sheriff is, that he is letting his narcissism run this department. And I hope the Guthries sue the crap out of them, because it's hard to say. It's at this point, I don't know if there were mistakes made by Porch Guy and the Walmart Wrangler team that took Nancy. There may have been mistakes made, but got missed. Because again, not only was this homicide team led by a supervisor that had zero homicide experience, but we're talking the person who was put in charge in homicide has only like 2 years experience. They did not from the get-go put the best of the best on this case. This is basically the blind leading the blind. And it wasn't for a few days that the FBI came in. And people make mistakes, all right? No harm, no foul, get it. But the FBI was not in for a few days, and anything that was of value could have been tossed, could have been rambled over. There were so many people in the house touching things. There could have been something super valuable that was missed by these yahoos. And this woman did not deserve that. The horror that this family and this woman has been put through, and this is how the sheriff is leading his department, is shameful. And the recall has to happen. They have got to get rid of this guy. It is terrifying. And this is not the only case. I'm sure there's other homicides happening in Tucson. I'm sure that there are other things that have been missed or other families affected by this. I'm going to go back to Brian's account because he did a couple shorts that I want to play. So we're going to watch a couple of these. So these go fast. Once I start these, they just start playing. So I'll shut up now.
Hey guys, so an insider, a source close to the investigation, the Nancy Guthrie investigation, is now speaking out specifically about concerns related to the beginning of the Nancy Guthrie investigation and the first investigators who arrived on the scene. From what you know, were the initial people who responded inexperienced?
The people that were there on the scene were not tenure homicide detectives. They didn't have a lot of experience in homicide at that point, to include the supervisor, who, from my understanding, never investigated homicide before being installed as the supervisor for the homicide unit.
So wait, so the supervisor who first responded to Nancy Guthrie's house had never investigated a homicide?
Correct.
How is that possible?
Plus, you have decisions made by people that will install friends and people that can do stuff for them, opposed to people that are there on their merit and can do the job correctly.
I'm obviously concealing that person's identity because they...
So this sheriff's been on a power trip. I mean, the fact that he was handed the reins of Pima County Sheriff Department, this is his power trip. And he loves wielding his power in his convertible Corvette. Seeing this man in his convertible Corvette tells you everything you need to know about him. Everything you need to know about him. He is a tiny man, and I mean, he's affecting, these are people's real lives.
Hey guys, so I'm in Arizona. I'm actually right in the back of Nancy Guthrie's house, which I'll show you in a second. But first of all, I wanted to tell you that I have a source close to the investigation who has confirmed that there were no signs of an assault inside Nancy Guthrie's house. And that's, it was clean. Some rooms in the house were described to me as immaculate, but there were no outward signs of an assault inside Nancy Guthrie's house. Let me show you guys. I was able to get right back here to the back of the house. It's really the closest I've ever been able to get, but this is Nancy's pool right here. Right back there is the like the patio area, and there's two doors underneath that patio area, not sliding glass doors, which I initially thought maybe she has sliding glass doors here in the back, but they're just regular doors with like glass panels, and those are the doors that we believe were propped open.
All right, I'm trying to find
a
specific video where...
Hey guys, so I'm back.
All right, let me
Hey
go
guys,
back
so
to
an insider...
Stop, Brian. Okay, there is a video where he's talking about... There was, and it was one of his shorts, so that's why I'm trying to... Let me just look back here. Hang with me, guys. There is a short that he did where I don't know if he was invited into the supervisor, the county supervisor meeting in Pima County, but basically what's happening now is there's a recall. There was a big meeting in the town where people spoke about the sheriff, and apparently what is the next step of this process is the supervisor, the county supervisors are going to have the sheriff come in under oath and answer questions, probably about the things that he lied about or didn't include in his background. We're talking really about, I believe, the El Paso disciplinary record that he has, and the fact that he had some dates changed, that he had was forced to resign in 1982 or be terminated, but he was stating on his resume or on the online resume that he was with El Paso until 1984, and that's when he started working for Pima County. And so he's under fire. And the sad thing about this is when you've got someone of his personality, which I believe he has a personality disorder. Okay. And I'm not anybody who could say that, but this is a guess that he has some sort of a personality disorder where he's going to think that he's right and everybody else is wrong. He probably believes the things that he says, and he's probably not even concerned that they're going to bring him in. When you have somebody who's a narcissist like this, they can talk their way out of anything. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens when they put him under oath. And I don't know if they can just fire him on the spot since he's an elected official, but something has to happen. This guy is, this is bad. And again, this isn't just the Guthries being affected by his decisions. This is a whole lot. And this has been going on for years. I mean, the retaliation in the department, he's completely, in my opinion, he's gutted this entire department. And the fact that something big like this that was waiting to happen has just made this worse. And again, Nancy could have been alive in the first few days. And if they missed something, they maybe could have saved her. It's really hard to say, but I really think that he's got a screw loose, in my opinion. And I don't know what he's thinking. I really don't know what he's thinking. So that's kind of the update on that. I'm sure Brian will keep us updated on all of those good things. Let me go through my other videos. I'm probably not going to play that much from Ashley Banfield because she did talk about how her source mentioned that that Nancy's house was immaculate. And if you didn't see the blood on the front porch, you would have gone in and not even seen or had any indication that something happened. Okay. And I just have to wonder, with the back doors propped open with the flower pots, you know, and we don't know how long the perpetrators were in the home, minimum about 42 minutes, but I have to wonder if they were in there longer. And at what point did they think to move Nancy out of the house? If they've got the back door propped open with flower pots, does that mean that they were meaning to take her out of the back? And most people think that there's more than one and that they came in through the back. But if they were meaning to take her out of the back, did that plan change because at some point she told them or showed them that she can't walk that far? She probably couldn't have walked from the back door all the way around to the front where a car was waiting. Okay. So it could be that they had the back door propped open. And some people are even saying that the back door being propped open shows that it could have actually been one person, that it supports one person being in the house. Because if your hands are full and you know you're going to take Nancy out or whatever you're doing, that you don't have an extra hand to hold the door open while you're doing what you're doing. So there's actually some people who are saying that the back door being propped open supports one person. But I just don't think so. I mean, if anything, they could have propped the door open. Maybe it squeaked. It could have made noise. They may have wanted to go in and out for whatever reason and didn't want to bring any more attention to what they were doing. So leaving the door propped open might have been easier just for sound and the clunk of a door opening and closing. Maybe there's a chime. Certain doors of my home, there's a chime when you open it. So you kind of know, okay, somebody's going out the side door or the back door. Maybe there was a chime that was loud. There could have been dogs out. The neighbor had mentioned that they had, their dog had woken up both nights, the 11th of January and the 31st. There could be a dog barking that scared somebody off, lights, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, it just makes me wonder if they were planning to take her out the back door, and if she finally indicated, look, I just can't walk. My next question is if she changed the plans, or the dog barking or her not being able to walk changed the plans, and they ended up taking her out the front door, which was the closest to the car, which makes sense logistically. At what point was she injured? You know, at what point was she injured? Because, you know, they're saying that the inside was immaculate and that if there was a struggle, she would have knocked something over, or she may not have knocked something over. And I'm just thinking, you know, in her room, she's got lamps on the bedside table. She's weak. She has back pain. Okay. She has mobility issues. You know, did somebody grab around her or tie her arms to her sides? Because I think that we hope that she would have knocked something over and fought or tried to hold them off somehow, but it's just very possible that they got the jump on her and that she was just physically unable to do that. And with her being hard of hearing, these guys could have been carte blanche in her house for a long time. They could have been fixing a grilled cheese in the kitchen and she may not have been aware that they were there. So it's just, it's really scary. And I'm just so mad. I'm so angry that somebody, let alone taking her out of the house, I'm just so angry that somebody would hurt her. I think that is so sick. It is disgusting that somebody would hurt her to the fact that, I mean, it makes me think that they punched her like in the stomach or broke some ribs, or she might have had an impact because of the way that she aspirated that blood up. That is sick that somebody would actually do that. And for their sake, I do hope that they get caught. I hope that the DNA leads people back to them. I hope that they get their day in court and they have justice served. I don't know that the Guthrie family is ever going to have the mom back. Jen Coffindaffer had Mac, who is, I think she's a forensic specialist. Yesterday, Jen Coffindaffer had Mac on, and Mac actually went into Tucson with her daughter just to check out the area. And Mac talks about on Jennifer's video yesterday morning, maybe I'll pull that up. She talks about the fact that with the heat, that there's just not going to be anything. There's just not going to be anything left of her mom at this point. There's just nothing to find. The terrain, you'll never find her. They'll never find her. I'm not sure which one it is, so I'm going to skip that. But anyway, it's really sad. And I hope that the family's getting some therapy, because at this point, I don't know that they're going to, ever be able to recover her. And they would have to have the perp tell them where her remains are in order for them to recover her. And just like the Nancy Woodrum story out of Paso Robles, California, they only found Nancy Woodrum after they got the assailant, and he confessed. He actually had guilt. He confessed, and he took them to where he put the body. That's the only way they got any remains back. And he actually had marked the area with some rocks or a stack of rocks. And at the time, I remember watching, while I was doing some research, he was very proud of himself that he did that for her. And Suzanne, and yeah, poor Nancy. I mean, it's just horrible. She's just a sweet person. Nobody deserves that. And the terror and the fact that somebody did that to her is just, it's like taking something that's really, really bad and just crossing the line and just boop, just jumping right past that, any decency. All right, let me keep going. I'm kind of working left to right. Let's watch this video. I like watching these videos together with us because some of these snippets I don't get to see. And so I'm just grabbing them, and let's watch some TV together, guys.
Carr, former FBI special agent and director of the Criminal Justice Institute at Wilmington University. Ray, given what we know at this point and what we just saw in Brian's piece, how do you think they took Nancy out? It looks like going out the back, you go into that rough terrain. There's no way you could carry an elderly woman through that.
I don't think that the back door was an exit. I think it was an entry.
You think that's how they got in?
I think that's how additional individuals may have been let into the home, where the one individual went in through the front. But it's, and I agree with the SWAT commander that they had to leave from the front of the home because of the blood that was found on the steps and on the porch. There's no doubt in my mind that she left from the front, but there were entries that people were going in from different parts of the home.
So this would prove to you, because there's been lots of speculation that a single person could not have pulled this off. Nancy was 84. She was not able to move very well. It would have been too much for one person to break into the home and carry her out.
Absolutely. You know, I listened to Savannah's interview again, and something that was very notable to me was the fact that she said her brother, who was military, was in the military and was involved in intelligence, thought that his mother was kidnapped. When I heard her say that, it raised a red flag to me that I thought, how did he come up with that idea, number one? And number two, what did he see and what did he hear that led him to believe that?
And,
I think that's very telling.
And the brother, who has a background in the military, you say, the brother said that right away, like before anybody had given a ransom note, which happened a couple days later?
That is correct. That is what I took from the interview that Savannah said.
The timing of Savannah's interview may not be coincidental. It comes almost exactly 2 months after Nancy's disappearance. You know, this is a case where we have so few clues or leads to the case. Do you think, was this just an interview that she did before she returned to work? It's something she would have had to do to sort of address the tragic elephant in the room, so to speak, before going back on TV every single morning? Or do you think this was also done in conjunction with the FBI to spur more tips and information in the case?
I definitely think it was done in collaboration with the FBI. She's been very cooperative, as her whole family has been. And I think that she spoke with the FBI, and it was kind of scripted of exactly what they want, exactly the message they wanted to broadcast to everyone out here.
What stuck out to you as being as things that you thought, I'll bet she worked with the FBI on the wording of that?
It wasn't spontaneous. The questions weren't spontaneous. It was almost like it was scripted, like, ask me this and I'll tell you this. So it seemed it was pretty, after watching it several times, that's how I feel it was.
Well, let's hope it works. This is a case where we desperately need, police desperately need, the FBI desperately needs some leads in the case. This is the family's offered $1 million for information. That hasn't shaken loose anything. Maybe finally it will.
It's not about the number of tips that are coming in. It's finding that one tip.
The quality.
That's going to help. Yeah, that's going to help solve the case.
Yeah, Raymond Carr, really appreciate your analysis. Thank you.
So let's talk about the reward, because I believe that the family upped the reward amount to $1 million for the recovery, the return of their mother. And the fact that nobody has taken advantage of that in at least the last month since they offered that reward tells me that at this point, no one's going to. The $1 million is useless. Nobody's going to take advantage of any of the money. And I don't think that this is about the money at this point. If they took Nancy in order to get like a kidnap for ransom or a money grab, they screwed up. They did this whole thing. They're planning. Think about it. If they started planning in January 11th, they're doing recon, the 24th, and then they finally pull the trigger on January 31st. They did all this work. They got zero payday. And if they thought that they were going to be able to keep her alive, they made a huge mistake. And if there's more than one, and let's just say that these are, if this is one of the options, it is out there, a South American theft group, which we know have started coming into the country, and they are more organized. They wear, the same kind of clothing, the ski masks. They do have weapons, and they do work in groups. Okay. If this is an organized group like that, then it's very possible, if there's, loose lips sink ships. If there's somebody who they even think that they can sniff and smell and think that they're going to tell or rat someone else out, they've probably already been offed. These people are not going to go down at all. And if they think that somebody could or has a conscience, they've probably already done away with that person. So I think all hope is lost as far as that goes. Who is this guy? I think he was, I'm not sure exactly. Let me go back and see if I can get his name. I think he's passed
Agent and director of the Criminal Justice Institute at Wilmington University.
Wilmington University, some criminal institute. So they're obviously, we're just asking him. So good question. So yeah, they just get people on here talking about it. But yeah, if there was if this was about money, they actually would have had a better chance of getting money by returning the body or wherever they dumped her than whatever it is that they thought they were going to get in the first time. And with the notes. And, you know, in the interview, Savannah said that she thought that 2 notes could have been real. And she used the words, the 2 notes that we got. And when she says we, I believe she's talking about her family. We were not aware that the family had received notes. We had been told that TMZ and the Tucson news stations had received ransom notes. We were not aware that the family was given ransom notes. So how did the ransom notes get to the family? Obviously, they're not going to share the contents of those ransom notes. Supposedly, there was information in them that made people think that they really were in the room, but it's hard to say. I mean, during the Today Show segment, is there something in the room that somebody could have seen and used in the note to make it sound logistic, or are they just guessing? Because, you know, little old ladies' bedrooms can look the same. It's hard to say. But it just makes me so angry that they hurt her. You know, if they were going to take her for ransom, you know, it would have been nice if they had just taken better care of her, in my opinion, and she could have been reunited with her family. And it still makes me wonder, you know, and I want to be clear, the family's been cleared, but I still have this little cloud hanging over my head of, you know, coincidences. How is it that the family member received a text on day 1 or 2 of her being missing, and the text said something, and I'm paraphrasing, to the effect of, do you have the Bitcoin? They're waiting for it. Okay, that just seems really weird. And I don't know. That just seems really, really weird. I know that Jennifer Coffindaffer, it looks like they've updated, let me stop this. Looks like they've updated this billboard. It says 88 crime, Pima County Attorney's Office, Crime Stoppers, 102,000. This is what the FBI is offering. Anonymous, missing Nancy Guthrie. I had a big problem with the billboards because I don't think that the billboards, I think it's better that they're not using the FBI number, because I think somebody who might have information like maybe a disgruntled ex-girlfriend or girlfriend who has a conscience, I don't know that anyone's going to call that FBI number. And I actually called a tip into the FBI number regarding the shoe pattern that is in the blood. And it took me, I mean, they asked a lot of questions that I had to answer: birthday, address, name, etc. It took me, and then I was on hold for at least 5 minutes before I got somebody. But I mean, that's a lot. Somebody's got to be really, really dedicated to sit through calling in a tip. But what I'm trying to get at is, these billboards to me are a waste of time. It says missing. She's not missing. She was abducted. And they need to have a picture of Porch Guy in order for somebody to recognize him. I think that this is a total waste of any law enforcement budget. And I think that those are a waste of time. Jennifer Coffindaffer was working with the FBI to try to get the creative swapped out and do a GoFundMe. But of course, I don't know how far she's gotten with that. The sheriff had come out around that time and said that there's no official GoFundMe. Don't donate to GoFundMe. She was trying to her idea was to raise funds on a GoFundMe so that she could buy more billboards with Porch Guy's picture on it. And he, of course, is telling people not to donate to any GoFundMes, and he doesn't want the billboards changed. And I'm sorry, he just sounds like a nut job. All right. So I want to go in to Nancy Guthrie because let me keep going over here. Please hold. Where's my Nancy Guthrie one? Come back, Nancy Guthrie. Hold on. I'm going to go back. Just talk amongst yourselves. Nancy Grace. I want to go to Nancy Grace is what I was saying. So she's got the guy from Body Bags on, and I think this one was yes.
Right, forensics investigator.
Okay, yes. So, I had brought on day 53, I had one of my wonderful viewers had come on and got my attention and said, look, there's a shoe pattern in the blood on the front porch. And literally spent the next 20 minutes talking about, he walked me through how to find it. Well, Nancy Grace has been talking about this shoe pattern as well. And right now, I think she's the only person who's talking about it, but she's got, and of course I'm drawing a blank, but let me play this. She's going to talk with the guy from Body Bags, about the shoe pattern. So let me get this on.
Right, forensics investigator and professor of forensics at Jacksonville State University, Joe Scott. I want to talk about the evidence outside Nancy Guthrie's front door. We've seen a lot. We've seen the mat, which I know you want to talk about. We've seen the rocks, the debris, the foliage on top of the mat. I want to talk to you about some Ozark Trail shoes. Ozark Trail shoes. Now, Joe Scott, we know that the backpack was an Ozark Trail backpack from Walmart, but Ozark Trail shoes. I want you to look at the bottom of the tread and compare it to blood found outside Nancy Guthrie's front door.
Yeah, you take a look at this image, Nancy, and you begin to think about, well, is there any kind of discernible tread pattern that is contained in there? Now, let me preface this by saying that the image that you're seeing with the blood droplets, that's not coming from the police. That's coming from somebody in the press, okay? So the quality of that image will be enhanced relative to the pictures that they took as crime scene investigators. So you'll be able to see more fine detail in that. Now, why is this important? It's important when you begin to think about that Ozark Trail tread there. And our tread on our shoes is very distinctive to us in the way that we walk. So what they're looking for, first off, is a general categorization of these treads. Is it something that could potentially be, looking at the image of the blood, is there an image that is consistent with the tread pattern on the Ozark tread, on the Ozark shoes? Now, if that is in fact the case, if they are able to get their hands on shoes, like shoes, for instance, they would do a comparison at that moment in time, particularly if they find them with a suspect, Nancy. And what's going to make those particularly identifiable is the wear pattern. How do we wear our shoes? Do we pronate, supinate? Are we heel strikers? Are we toe strikers? You begin to think about that, and that will come through in that image.
Okay, I want to talk to you about the Ozark Trail shoes. Mm-hmm. And we have been looking at various shoes to determine their shoe patterns on the bottom, their tread marks. This is from a photo I found on X from a guy who talks shit on X. His words, not mine. Now, we're seeing the bottom of the pattern. I want you to look at the Ozark Trail shoe itself. Here is a side shot of the Ozark Trail men's low hiker boots. Now, let's compare that to the video of the porch guy. Let's look at his shoes. Joe Scott.
I don't know.
They actually look more like the Ozark Trail shoe than they do, for instance, a regular pair of Nikes or tennis shoes with stripes down the side or a logo.
Yeah, and there's a very distinctive pattern here, Nancy, that let me just, kind of frame this up for you. With the FBI, with their digital folks that are taking a look at these images, if they trim this out and they focus in on these particular shoes, they'll be able to super enhance these. This video is so good compared to a lot of the stuff I've seen over the years relative to specific types of shoes. they can enhance this image to the point where I think that they could probably come up with branding. And what you're looking for are specific identifiers. If you take a look at the tip of that shoe, you've got the rubber sole that actually rises up to meet the toes. All right. Look at that. And then you look at that kind of striped area that's kind of highlighted. If you can really see it on the heel of this shoe. Well, that's unique to that shoe. And Nancy, in forensic science, that comes down to something. There's a principle that we have that's referred to as individualization. That means that we're tying specific brands, items back to a particular person. And so all of those, when you take that total aggregate there and you kind of shake it down, you're looking for something that is going to be unique to that individual. Where could he have purchased these shoes? Do they show any kind of wear on them on the sides at all? And again, through the enhancement, perhaps the digital enhancement that the FBI is going to render up, that's going to be a very specific identifier for these. And again, going back to branding, we talked about the book bag, we've talked about the shoes. Oh yeah, by the way, what about the holster as well? Remember, there was talk that was potentially purchased through Walmart, either online or maybe at a store itself. So you've got three things here that we're looking at.
I want to talk to you also, Joe Scott Morgan, about speculation that blood was found inside Nancy Guthrie's front door.
Yep.
If there was a rug there, like an entrance hall, an entrance area rug that's very, very common, that may have, those blood spots may have escaped detection because it blends in with a rug. How do you go about getting blood spatter, if there is any, from off?
All right, I'm going to skip this one. I know that Megan Kelly, I wanted to pull up the pictures of the South American theft groups. South American theft groups, because she actually had video of what they look like. And that's why I have to think that these guys, these people might be part of that, because they literally, they're dressed the same. Let me see if I can find it.
There's a place I'm going with this, and it has to do with your theory, James, about this being potentially a South American, like B&E crew breaking. I'm like in the biz now, a B&E, breaking and entering. I see the video of these guys. I totally get it. Well, you got to look at this. We pulled video of what James is talking about. We have a few different episodes. Here's one. This is in
confirmed theft groups.
This is video 4, which is San Diego.
I mean, look at this.
For the listening audience, they look a lot like our perp. They have a hoodie sweatshirt on. They have black masks. They have gloves. They are pretty much covered head to toe. They're clearly not wanting to be recognized and potentially not wanting DNA. Now, here's another guy. He's got like it looks like a balaclava that you'd wear skiing over your head. You can only see the guy's eyes. Now, here's another group sneaking onto somebody's back porch. There's 3 or 4 of them in each of these videos.
These guys have backpacks.
There's like, they're together.
Now
here, this guy, look, the backpack.
Go back on this. And
the face cover to somebody's back porch. There's 3 or 4.
All right. So, I mean, this looks like people just pulled it out of a playbook. That's why, I mean, and there's definitely more than one when they're working together. And the video that we just saw when they were looking at the shoes of Porch Guy, there was not blood on the porch at that point when we're seeing Porch Guy take and yank the camera down. That's why I think that there's at least 1 or 2 other people in the house with Nancy at that time. I think that they were going to take her out the back door. That's why the back door is propped open. But when they changed that plan, he realized, okay, there's a camera up front. I need to go get rid of the camera. So that's what he's doing. He's up front, yanking the camera down because there's no blood on the porch. And he's walking around in those shoes. And, I think they were in the house for a lot longer than 42 minutes. They could have taken their time, and he looks very relaxed. And the reason why I felt he was relaxed before we knew all of the things that we've kind of put together, and so much of this is speculation, We could be totally wrong, but I originally thought he looks really, really, really relaxed because his buddy is on the inside, and his buddy has a setup, and the only way he could be that comfortable is if he's not alone, he's with somebody that he trusts and that they're on the same mission together, that he's been there, he's comfortable there, and all of those things have panned out. And that's why he's so comfortable. I think that they could have been in there for an hour figuring out what to do with her, and they changed their plan. They've regrouped. His job now is to go out there and pull the camera down, and they're going to take her out the front door. And it's probably pretty close to when they get her ready to go. She's either hurt inside the house, or actually, I'm going to say at that point, she's not hurt because the blood doesn't show up in the house until she's close to the front door. So at that point, she probably is not injured. And it's very possible that they have her tied, and when they're ready to take her out the front door with no shoes on and her pajamas and her little nightgown, it could be that she finally thought to herself, I can't go with them. I have to do something to stop them from taking me. That they're really taking me somewhere. And maybe she fought back at that point. Maybe someone just popped her in the stomach or in the head at that point to get her to stop. And so I think that if they did hurt that, well, we know that they hurt her. I'm thinking that they hurt her at the door. Okay. And again, sickening. I just can't imagine that they even went there, but maybe they felt like they had to do it in order to get her out. But that's really what screwed this whole thing up for them. If they thought they were going to get money, that was the mistake that ended it, because she did not, I don't think she lived more than a day or two after that, if at all. And any chance that they had of doing a successful ransom just went out the window. And again, I've spoken about this before. My deepest prayer is that she was somehow not conscious from that point forward and didn't even know what was happening. I hope that her body went into shock and protected her. I really, really hope that she was protected at that point. So yeah, this is why I think that there were definitely multiples, and it's making sense, but it definitely could be a theft group, because we've talked about the idea that it could be somebody who was obsessing over Savannah, but they could have targeted her again because of the location of her home. They could have just gone into the hills to these $1 million homes that are on acreages, and her house could have just been one of the easier easements to get to, making it easy for them to get in and out. And I mean, it literally could have just been that, and them watching the house knowing that she was old, she wasn't going to fight back. So let's watch this for another second or so.
4 of them in each of these videos, except, yeah, there's like, they're together. Now here, this guy, look, the backpack, the face covering, and there's another one we're going to show. But I'm going to start with you on it, Will, because it's not your theory, but look at this guy. This is in Tennessee. Yeah. He's got the backpack. Yeah, this is in Tennessee. He's got the reflective thing on the front of the backpack, or a light. I can't tell which. This almost looks like the actual guy who broke into Nancy's. So your thoughts on it, Will?
And the hand signals.
Okay, so my initial thoughts.
These groups are everywhere. Okay, so I really think it's worth sharing this, because it just looks just like Walmart Wrangler. It really, really does. All right, let me just look through and see if I've covered everything that I wanted to discuss. I showed that one. We did that one. And if you're just joining us, the latest on Sheriff Nanos is that we have a whistleblower. I'm going to play the short again, because we've had a lot of people just visit us later in the show here. So I'm going to play the short because Brian Entin has a lengthy interview tonight. We're going to get more information from the whistleblower that currently works at the Pima County Sheriff Department, and is talking about how in the very first day of the Nancy Guthrie investigation, the homicide squad that went in was led by a supervisor that has 0 homicide Experience. So let's watch this short, and it's unbelievable.
Hey guys, so an insider, a source close to the investigation, the Nancy Guthrie investigation, is now speaking out specifically about concerns related to the beginning of the Nancy Guthrie investigation and the first investigators who arrived on the scene. From what you know, were the initial people who responded inexperienced?
The people that were there on the scene were not tenure homicide detectives. They didn't have a lot of experience in homicide at that point, to include the supervisor, who, from my understanding, never investigated homicide before being installed as the supervisor for the homicide unit.
So wait, so the supervisor who first responded to Nancy Guthrie's house had never investigated a homicide?
Correct.
How is that possible?
Well, so you have decisions made by people that will install friends and people that can do stuff for them, opposed to people that are there on their merit and can do the job correctly.
I'm obviously concealing that person's identity because they would get in a lot of trouble for talking with me. I'll have more of the interview coming up on.
So the other thing that is coming up is the county supervisors in Pima County have had a meeting, and they are going to have Sheriff Nanos come in under oath and answer questions regarding his past disciplinary action in El Paso that he may not have disclosed when he applied for the job, and also different things on his resume and or just really anything with the case. So they're going to put him under oath, and it'll be very interesting to see what questions they ask him and what he says. And I don't know. But again, if he literally has put somebody on this case who has zero homicide and they've blundered this case, and if Nancy could have been saved in the beginning and she wasn't, I hope that this county gets sued. And I feel bad for the people that are doing good work, but this man needs to be personally held liable. I really think that he needs to take personal responsibility for his decisions, and I hope he gets sued so bad, because at this point he has aided and abetted the people that did this to Nancy Guthrie. He has made this so easy for them to have hurt her. He's done this with his negligence. So let's see. What about the empty house next to Nancy's, construction workers watching, all of that? I mean, it could be any of those things. There are definitely looking at all the construction workers, anybody in the area. It takes a long time because sometimes, someone will go work for a day or two that aren't on a regular payroll. It could be a lot of cash business, but I can guarantee they are running down anybody who has worked in that area over the last several months, and they are going to be doing interviews. They could definitely getting buccal swabs for DNA, all of the above. So, well, this was a full update, you guys. We are on, again, day 61. Hoping every day, every night I go to bed and I think maybe tomorrow we'll have good news. And let's just hope that the FBI has something going on that we just don't know about. And let's just hope and put all of our thoughts and prayers and energy that something will happen and that somebody will be brought to justice. Because at this point, these guys they're out running amongst us. And if this is a theft group, and they're organized, they definitely could be looking at their next hit. I mean, seriously, they are probably on to the next. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you for all your comments and questions today. I love your questions. And thank you so much to all my Crime Crunchies. Please subscribe. It really helps with me being a new channel, and hit the notification bell. I'm definitely staying on Nancy's case. I might intersperse some things. We've got Rex Huerman. We've got some rumblings of him getting ready to take a plea deal. I might do an episode on him. General McCaslin is still missing. So there's some other ones, but I think Nancy's really my main storyline that I'm really passionate about and I'm staying on for certain. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me here today. I hope you all have a great afternoon. And until the next time, I will catch you on the flip side.